Okay. It looks as though everybody was able to see me, but I was not able to see you. As I said in the other stream, having problems with my internet. And so I just basically had to reboot everything and turn it off for a while and turn it back on. And it took a while to reconnect to the internet. I'm hoping that it stays moment. Just, yeah, this is what you pay, almost $300 a month for cable and all this other shit, right? This is exactly what you pay for. Comcast, man. All right, we're back. So for those of you who are popping onto this one, hopefully you saw my last stream. Cliff's Notes, very, very quick version. Did the All Things Must Pass video. A lot of people have been talking crap on it. I'm here to kind of answer any questions anybody may have about the video, talk about the players who played on the album, and pretty much talk about all things George and really anything you want to talk about. Again, assuming most of you saw the last part, the main thing was that the whole Bobby Whitlock versus Peter Frampton thing, about Bobby Whitlock saying Peter Frampton didn't play on the album, and then Peter Frampton saying he did, and a lot of people kind of going by Bobby Whitlock and saying, oh, he didn't really play on it and everything, and I don't know, I don't know. But I've, as I said, just quickly, again, I'm just trying to catch up anybody who didn't maybe see the last stream that was just a few minutes ago. The video has been, as most of my videos are, overwhelmingly positive. A lot of this stuff is positive and everything. And I have been blessed with a lot of views and a lot of positivity about it. But the people who have been calling me out, usually if somebody wants to, kind of hit me on a little point of pain or something that I didn't really get completely right, that's cool. And a lot of times it's not very, I want to say, harsh. It's just kind of like, hey, just want to point out, it was this year, not this year. And I'm like, oh, you're right. And I'll put it in the comments, because I want people to be able to go in the comments and see that I'm willing to listen to people who are going to, call me out and say that I was wrong on one little part, or, something that I didn't get right. Totally fine. But these people have been extremely, extremely vitriolic as far as, some of the things that they've been saying, curses, calling me dumb, things of that nature, which, goes beyond the pale of just, trying to, I guess, correct me, but basically at that point, trolling me. So, I'm here. I wanted to advertise this as much as I could today and yesterday, just saying I was going to be here. And for anybody who wanted to talk to me about it, I would be here, and pretty much anybody can pop on and ask me questions about it. But just a couple little things about All Things Must Pass and the album in and of itself. I gave it a fresh listen a few days ago. Obviously, I'd listened to it many, many times. I'm a huge Beatles fan. I have all the Beatles records, but when it came to the solo stuff, I wasn't as much of a fan. I was more of a greatest hits type guy, except maybe for Paul. I did have a few of Paul's albums, but for the most part, I didn't really feel as though any of the other, really, even Paul, if you take a lot of his albums, it's not like, it's not like whatchamacallit, I'm blanking. I don't even know what I was saying at this point. I'm reading the comments. All right, let's go to the comments. You be tripping. Hey man, video was good. Thank you, sir. Dwayne says hello, and you be tripping says Frampton had said multiple times. Yes, he has said it multiple times. He's been on Howard Stern. He said it many times, and I think the problem is that it was at different times. So you had the core band and you had most of the musicians that were in there doing the main work of the album. They were laying down all the parts. But sometimes it's just like a movie. You know how you got to do reshoots in a movie? You know, they talk about doing reshoots all the time. Remember when Henry Cavill had to go back with the mustache and didn't want to shave it? And then that's how Justice League got the stupid, thing. So it's the same thing in album making. Sometimes a producer will say, hey, we need a little bit more presence here, or hey, we need, something else here to kind of make it sound good. And Phil Spector was, obviously he always wanted more and more and more. So at one point he said, hey, I want to have more guitars. So at the time, George was having a good kind of relationship with Peter Frampton, and that's who he brought in to do the other guitars. And a lot of people ask about why they're not credited on albums. And part of the reason why is because a lot of times they have record deals themselves, and they're not allowed to really play on other albums. And I think George played on an album one time, and he had to go under the name Langelo Mysterio or something like that, because you would be in breach of contract if you play on another musician's record and make money off it. So they don't really make money off it. They just do it as a favor, and they'll just go and do it. And they don't get credit as a player because of that. So sometimes if Peter Frampton has a record deal with Humble Pie, and at the time he was with Humble Pie, and he couldn't go and play on an EMI release, well, that makes sense of why he wasn't credited. Eric Clapton technically originally was not credited on the album because he had, record constraints and contract constraints. So it's kind of a thing, that back in the day, you had a lot of these musicians that were helping each other out, and, they didn't get credited. It just didn't happen. Let's read a couple more of these. Is it possible you could do a video on Schecter? So, I will be doing a short series on. So here's the thing. I just want to be as this is PVMNZ asking if I could do a video on Schecter. I just want to be as honest as possible here. So I am living in a YouTube community right now with a lot of other channels, right? And what I try to do is I try to do videos about things that other people are not really covering, or maybe covering it in a way that's a little bit different than what other people might do, right? So when I looked at All Things Must Pass, I said, I really want to do a video about that, but what can I do? And then I said, well, nobody's really covered the session musicians. I have a point to what I'm saying. So there's other channels like 5 Watt World that does a lot of gear-based stuff. And I don't want to really do too many gear-based things on the channel. However, I do want to do a series on some of these smaller guitar brands. I had the idea of doing Schecter Guitar Research. I had an idea of doing Parker, which doesn't exist. Steinberger. Some of these companies that people don't really know the history of, and they just kind of like came and went, or were kind of a moment in time. BC Rich, things like that. Guitar companies that they might still be around, but they just have a very small niche in the guitar market. I will be doing those videos. Obviously, with everything else that I'm working on, my turnaround time at this point, because with work and with family constraints and everything else going on, and the summertime is generally a pretty busy time. You're out and about, you're going out all the time because the weather's nicer. So my turnaround time is generally about one video a week. So it might seem as though I have a ton of content, which I do have a lot of content going back over a year, but that's kind of the way it goes. So I have tons of video ideas. It's just a matter of actually having the time to do it. But that's it, a very long answer to your question. But yes, Dwayne says Peter Frampton is on All Things Must Pass. Great guitarist. I saw him live in 2018. Yeah, he is. I mean, I don't know how else to say it. Whether Bobby Whitlock, and I'm not trying to cause any beef or anything like that, or say that people are lying or anything like that. I just think they didn't come across each other. Peter Frampton was recording at a different time that Bobby Whitlock was. So if Bobby Whitlock says he didn't play on it, maybe he didn't play on the sessions that he played on, but that doesn't necessarily mean that he didn't play on it at all. Yeah, Prince was using the different name, and the artist, right? That was his years where he was just the symbol or whatever. I don't know exactly why he did that. I know it did have something to do with his record contract, and he was trying to get out of it. Unsuccessfully. He was still recording with the same record company at the time, Prince was, but he just was doing it under the other name to, I guess, kind of screw them or something, or he was just going to be like, well, fine, then I won't record under my own name or something like that. I don't know. I don't know how that helped him. Sometimes artists get weird stuff in their heads, and they but speaking of Bobby Whitlock, I was looking at his history, and even though he did take a really long time off of music after the 70s, really, his early days and like what he worked on in the early days was quite prolific. And he obviously had a lot to do with, Eric Clapton's career, George Harrison's career. He even before that was working in Stax Records. He was doing stuff with Sam and Dave, and I believe was it Booker T and the MGs? But he was some of his mentors were literally Steve Cropper, Booker T himself. So he has a lot of musical chops. So obviously not taking anything away from him, but I'm just saying to be as vehement as you are about something that you may not know 100% about. Peter Frampton has no reason to lie. I mean, he's Peter Frampton. I mean, I'm not saying he's like this huge star. Like he's probably Peter Frampton. I would say he is a great player. I feel like he's never been given the due that he fully deserves, but he didn't. His solo career kind of fizzled after Frampton Comes Alive. That was pretty much it. He didn't really have another big hit after that. He ended up touring as the main guitarist for David Bowie on the Glass Spider tour. So he basically does that. Yeah, perfect. Robert says there's an album called Green Bullfrog, Richie Blackmore on it listed as Boots, and Ian Pace is Speedium. They do it all the time. They can't. If they have a record deal with somebody and that record deal precludes them from playing on other artists, or more importantly, other artists who are signed with other record companies material, then they're still going to do it. They're just not going to get paid for it, and they're not going to get credited for it. And at the end of the day, they don't care. They just want to be on it. They want to be part of it. Most of the musicians who were in George's band, I mean, I'm sure the ones like not Eric got paid for the ones that were there, but that's the way it goes, man. That's the 60s. That's how, there's tons of session musicians and everything that happened back then. A lot of people don't know that Jimmy Page played lead guitar on Joe Cocker's with a little help from my friends. You had guys like Vic Flick, who actually showed Jimmy Page the ropes originally when Page first started breaking into the business. Vic Flick was kind of, I don't want to say he was on the decline, but he was, the music was changing. And a guy like Vic Flick, who was playing in big bands, and obviously, for those of you who don't know who I'm talking about, he was a guy who was most famous for playing the James Bond theme, which is pretty big, because that's a pretty big guitar performance right there. He showed up on Pawn Stars a few years ago, pawning or selling one of his Strats, like a 64 Strat or something like that. But yeah, like a lot of session players, a lot of people that went unsung, great musicians, just didn't really have the ability, or just didn't meet up with that, star kind of cross thing that some of these guys do. I don't know what else to say about all those session guys, and that's one of the things, like, people wanted me to talk about, they were very, very adamant about, let me just go back to the comment section, because it was just like, I don't want to say it was shocking to me, but the amount of just passion that was coming out of people um, about that. And I love the people that don't watch the whole video. Like, they'll, like, who didn't watch the whole video? This is pretty funny. I don't know how many of you guys subscribe to James channel. Usually it was actually Privet Tricker. Previously, the guy who just plays guitar and you only see him from the neck down. He's been on YouTube for years. I've been following him for years. He just basically plays songs. Sometimes he'll actually have lessons, but he's got like just an incredible guitar collection. He's got Les Pauls. He's got, he had a Gibson Everly Brothers, which is just an amazing guitar. And he didn't watch the whole video, and he corrected me on Peter Frampton. And I was like, I put Peter in there, but he didn't get to the end because I didn't put Peter in until the end because he didn't work on it till the overdubs. So I kind of did it with, the whole album. And then I said, Peter came in after the fact to do overdubs. So I kind of put him in towards the end of the video. And I don't, that's the way YouTube works. People are going to watch most of the video, and then they're going to click off when as soon as they get to a point where their brain kind of turns off. I feel like there's a certain amount of time that you can get out of people. That's one of the reasons why I tried to make the videos into a certain kind of time frame that isn't going to be just endless, But just real quick. Yeah, like somebody said, as others have mentioned, this information is readily available from one of the people who was in every session, Bobby Whitlock. He wasn't in every session because Peter Frampton played on the right. Anyway, the other one who would know all of this is EC, but by his own admission, obviously Eric Clapton, is having some memory issues. Bobby was very young back then and remembers everything. And he did write an autobiography, and that's cool. And people are like, basically, like, they are people are this whole Bobby Whitlock. I'm glad that Bobby Whitlock has a following on YouTube now. He's got about a little less than 7,000 subscribers. I highly recommend anybody who's fans of All Things Must Pass and Derek and the Dominoes, and any kind of rock history, subscribe to his channel. I sure did. He's a guy who has tons of rock and roll stories from the old days. Excuse me. And he you can only know what you know, right? But that doesn't necessarily make you the be all end all. Like, if Peter Frampton is saying after the fact to record overdubs, why would you question it? I don't understand why you would say there's hell no Peter Frampton did not play on the record. You don't know if Peter Frampton played on the record. You're saying that you know, but you don't really. So, that's where the disconnect happens with me, is like, if you don't know, just say you don't know. It's as simple as that. So I've kind of harped on that long enough. And I feel like all the people that I wanted to pop on here and fight me didn't really do that. It's just a bunch of nice people that are asking me questions. So we're going to make the rest of it about you guys. So the band Death, oh my God. It's been years since I've listened to any of them. I got to listen to their stuff again. Yeah, Bowie did have, it's funny that he did, I think the Peter Frampton thing was when he was playing with David Bowie. That was probably the only guitar player that he played with at that point that previously was famous at some point. So, I guess he had to give him a song. I'm assuming it was Do You Feel Like We Do, but I don't know. You don't know anything about Peter Frampton. I can pretty much sum it up very easily. Let me pull up the album cover, because you probably will recognize the album cover as soon as I show it to you. Hold on. Frampton Comes Alive, 1976, I believe it was. And that's pretty much his his peak and then his decline. So, it was a great live album recorded in San Francisco over, I think, a couple of nights. And it was just one of those kind of lightning in a bottle things. So Peter Frampton played in a really awesome band called Humble Pie. And Steve Marriott was the other guitar player in that band. They were really good. And actually, I would have preferred to see Humble Pie kind of go on with, Peter Frampton for a while, but Frampton went solo. He did have a minor hit with Show Me the Way. He's had hits with Do You Feel Like We Do, which was from Frampton Comes Alive. He's done like regular versions of them, but the more played version nowadays are from Frampton Comes Alive. The album went, billion platinum and sold tons of things and everything like that. And then after Frampton Comes Alive, he couldn't really get the same kind of traction with his regular album releases. And he ended up kind of fading into obscurity. The coolest, he was never totally obscure. He was just one of these guys that just never really got to that point where he had sustained success. But Frampton Comes Alive has been one of the best-selling albums of all time. So it's one of those things that, like, when people look up what's the best live album that ever was, that comes up as, one of the top 10 many times. So it sells and sells. It's kind of like Dark Side of the Moon. It just keeps selling, I was going to say something else about him, but I forgot what I actually did another video about his guitar. So those of you who don't know, Frampton has a guitar, a Les Paul custom, that was modified at some point. And the original owner of the guitar put 3 humbuckers into it. And Cliff's Notes version of it is that Frampton calls it Phoenix. The reason being is that in 1980, he was touring in Panama, and the band was staying behind an extra day, but they had to fly to somewhere else, and they put all of the gear onto a cargo plane that was going to take the gear to the next show. And then basically they were going to meet up with that. And what happened was the cargo plane crashed. And 2 days later, the road manager was able to get out to the crash site and take a look at it. And all they saw was wreckage and flaming, smoking debris, and no guitar cases. He just assumed, because the plane had been almost destroyed, that it was gone. But what had happened was that everything had shifted in the plane to the back, and that's the reason why the plane couldn't get lift. It was trying to get up, but all the stuff had shifted to the back of the plane, and it just fell out of the sky. The guitar was actually stolen from the wreckage by people from the area, and it was found 30 years later by a guitar tech who somebody had brought it in, and he said, "This is Peter Frampton's guitar." So he took a bunch of pictures of the inside of it, sent it off to Peter Frampton. Frampton opened them up in the email and was like, "Oh my God." So I did a whole video on this. It's on If Guitars Could Speak. It's actually episode number 3, way back in the day when I was first getting started in my new format. And it's not quite as polished as my recent videos, but it does the job. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot of stories, but that's really, the main thing that Peter Frampton is known for. What else? You guys saying the album David Bowie did with the songwriter for Labyrinth. Yeah, Labyrinth the whole project was good. The movie is very unsung. I've always liked that. Yeah, and there's just tons of stories like that. Joe Satriani working uncredited. They just can't be credited, and there's probably been tons of times. And how many times do we hear, like I think Van Halen was credited on Beat It, but so, it was basically those types of things where they just can't be credited on it for contractual reasons. So they aren't, and they just do it. And it's, musicians who love playing music to that extent are just going to do it because that's what they love to do. And they don't worry about getting paid or getting credit or any of that stuff. They just do it for the love of the music. And that's really the main thing. Possessed 7 churches, played the guitar on the whole album. Jeez, the band's guitarist must have been pretty upset about that. Replaced by Joe Satriani. I saw Joe Satriani live one time with Dream Theater, and point, I can stand there and I can be like, wow, he's a really good guitar player, like excellent. But if I heard, Neil Young really rip into a solo, and he's terrible. I mean, I don't want to say, he's like not a very good lead guitar player. Like if you listen to some of his solos, they're very kind of like they're off pitch and very like, some of the, like I was listening to Keep on Rockin' in the Free World came on, and I was like, geez, these solos are terrible. But again, they're more coming from the heart and less polished and less kind of rehearsed. And that's the kind of stuff that I do like. I like stuff that's just kind of coming out of people just randomly. Obviously people are going to have little licks and things and things that they do. Like if you watch some of the Cream live shows from, when they were at their prime, and I mean, really the whole time that they were together, they were at their prime. And I was thinking about making a video about Cream, even though they've been very well covered, but I want to kind of honor them as being really the best band ever. Cream is the best band musically. If you take all 3 of the musicians, right, and you say, okay, who is the best band who ever recorded, who ever played shows, whoever was together for any period of time, right? Who else is better? I mean, Led Zeppelin kind of comes close. The Who kind of comes close, but Cream is like, you got Eric Clapton, Jack Bruce, Ginger Baker. Like the 3 of them together are just unbelievable. Like when you watch them live, Santana called it, they looked like giants. He said you were standing there, it was like they weren't human. That is the feeling that you get. Like when, Clapton would get into, they would get into those jam sessions and everything, the bass just in your face loud, and the drums in your face, the guitar in your face. Like you don't get any better than that. There's no, like Dream Theater's not going to do that. You know what I mean? They're up there and they're like, they're like calculators playing music, They're like robots. There's a guy on YouTube. I don't know if he's still on YouTube. I watched videos a while ago, but he has a bunch of robots. They play music, and it's like, to me, that's what like a band like Dream Theater sounds like, is like, they're like calculators playing music. And again, I can stand there and I can say they're very good musicians. They're excellent. Their drummer was the old drummer, Portnoy. Was that Jeff Portnoy? He's good. He had that soulful side. And I think that was the one thing about that band that I actually could like, I like him, but the guitar player, the bass, they're just standing there playing with their pedals, doing this. Like, I'm just like, come on, man, connect with the audience. Anyway, but yeah, I mean, they were never better before, and they were never better after, in my opinion. Eric Clapton obviously had a very long career. He had a very successful career, obviously, but you cannot tell me that anything that he did after Cream was anywhere near as good as like some of the stuff that they did in Cream. It's just man, yeah, Mike Portnoy. Yeah, he's great. Like that was the one guy in Dream Theater that I liked, because I was in a band a while, like way back years ago, and a couple of the members of the band were really into Dream Theater, and I was always like the one that was, like let's play Steppenwolf, and shit like that. It was kind of a metal cover band, and we would never ever at the point where we were as players, and I still can't ever touch anything the Dream Theater would ever play, but we could never touch that, and we're never going to play it, but they liked them, and I was just like, eh. And so that was how I ended up at the show. They were playing Joe Satriani. It was a co-headlining bill, and it was probably one of the most boring shows I've ever been to in my life. Joe Satriani was very good. I don't want to talk too much crap on Joe. He was good. He was very like good with the audience and everything. Obviously had a lot of fun and everything. But again, it's like all, it's all instrumentals. It's like, God, I'm just like, give me, So yeah, I guess now is usually the point in the live stream where I try to tell you some of the things that I'm working on, and whether I actually do them next is really up for debate. But so Forgotten Fret Masters is always the one that everybody wants to know about. As far as what's coming up next, I have no idea who's coming up next. I said last week in the live stream that I was wrestling with between 3 people, but then I thought of somebody else that I really wanted to do. And I usually just say it on these live streams because nobody ever watches them, and it's not like anybody's going to, know. But Steve Clark from Def Leppard, I was listening to Def Leppard again one night. I was cleaning the house, and I just put on Pyromania, and I was like, yeah, man. They called him the Riff Master in Def Leppard, and he really was. And him and Phil Collen were excellent together. So they had kind of a long and winding road, I think, with Def Leppard. They had a guitar player before Steve Clark who wasn't really with the band very long. And then you had, what's his name? Pete Willis was the other guitar player. So it was Steve Clark, Pete Willis. But Willis had a really bad drinking problem. He ended up getting kicked out of the band, and they hired Phil Collen. No relationship to Phil Collins. Phil Collen ended up coming in, and him and Steve Clark, that was kind of like the golden age. The two of them together, they were the ones that worked on Pyromania and Hysteria, and just very, very good guitar players. They would trade off on lead and rhythm a lot of times, and they were just very good. So, but Steve Clark, being kind of a humble, quiet guy, somebody who was a rock and roll soul in a arena / hair metal type of guy that just wasn't really wasn't really too much. He was never really the guy who, I don't know. I just felt like he was kind of the quiet. He was like the George Harrison of the group. He was somebody who was just okay with being there and not really, being the guy who was going to be too much in everybody's face. So those are the guitarists that speak to me. When I thought of Alan Wilson to do the Alan Wilson episode which was the last Forgotten Fret Masters that we put out, and still getting pretty good, traffic, I immediately knew I had to do a video about him because that's exactly the type of person that I like to cover. Robin Trower, Mike Bloomfield, Mick Ronson. These are lunch pail guys, hard hat, lunch pail, working man guitarists, guys that, they're not about like all of the rags, the fame and fortune and everything. They're just there for the music. And that's the kind of stuff that I love to cover on this. Rory Gallagher. Rory Gallagher is such a interesting guy for me because he was playing music at a time when so many other people were doing the arenas and the explosions and the glam and the face paint and all the other crap that was going on in music at the time, Rory Gallagher showed up to every single show in jeans and a freaking plaid shirt. Okay. And, no, Vivian is not a slouch. She's very good, but I'm just saying that was the time frame of Def Leppard that everybody really looks at. And Lemmy playing a Telecaster, what? And I'm sorry, PVMNZS. What about Ace Frehley? I have a little problem with Kiss. I can't stand them. I've never liked Kiss. I've never liked them. Yeah, I can't really explain it beyond that. I'm just not a fan of their music, and I always thought that their whole like face paint thing was a little gimmicky. So I tend to stay away from Kiss. It's just, I just don't really have any desire to cover them. I just feel like there's going to be a huge Kiss documentary on something. I don't know. History? Was it History? I don't know. I was watching something and the commercial was coming on like every 5 minutes. It's called Kisstory. Ooh, can't wait. But again, it's another one of those bands that exactly, they made them too commercial, but they're the ones that decided to paint their faces and wear boots that were like this high and the explosions and bass guitars that shoot sparks out of the headstock and everything. I mean, when you have to, look, I am a fan of a show as much as anybody else. And I know that in some respects, the bands have to do that to some extent. Metallica is a great example of a band that kind of does it both. They have the big live stage show and the explosions and the fireworks and everything like that. But then, they come out in t-shirts and jeans and it's just less pretentious. And I think with Kiss, it's always been pretentious, like I've never seen a clip of Gene Simmons where I just didn't want to smack him just because he's like an a-hole all the time. And, I just feel like they're totally in love with themselves. And they've had a great career. They've made lots of money. They've sold lots of records. God bless them. They're just not for me. It's as simple as that. Cannibal Corpse, you're going way back. Yeah, I've heard that about them. They're very good with their fans. That's the thing. I'm a huge fan of Slayer. When I was in my metal phase, there's only a few bands that have kind of carried on with, that I still listen to today. I'll buy that. Ace Frehley is the most honest person in the band. I'll buy that. He does seem like a quiet, humble guy. I agree, but it's guilt by association. Look, Kiss it's been covered to death. That's the thing with me. That's what you have to understand with my channel. I try not to step on other people's toes, and I also try to do things that are a little bit different. So, if I feel like an act or a band has been just completely just beat to death, I'm not going to do it. But then again, I do like to do musicians that are very popular because obviously it's going to get me in with a lot of people that are going to see my work. So, I kind of try to split the difference, like this last video I just made, All Things Must Pass, and George Harrison and the Beatles and Eric Clapton. They're some of the biggest acts in rock and roll. But I try to do it just a little bit differently, instead of going into it doing, the same old thing that other people have done. So I try to do things a little bit differently. Like I'm currently a couple other things I'm working on. Steve Clark. I'm also looking at Roy Buchanan, Alvin Lee. And there's one other person. I can't remember who. Sister Rosetta Tharpe. There's a few other people that I've already had on the list that I'm that's the thing is, like, at the pace that I put videos out, this is going to keep me going until I'm in my 60s. So, I'll be around a long time, guys, and if it becomes where I can actually turn this into a business that has the type of thing where I can, hire people and do, that's a whole nother level of success, which I am not ever, planning that to happen, but it would be nice. I'm just saying I'm not at this point planning for that to happen. I'm just kind of enjoying the success that I have right now, and just trying to just continue to create good content and trying to make sure that every video that I put out is a good one. But I'm also trying to compile as much of Jimmy Page's session work as possible. So another thing, like Jimmy Page was a session guitarist for many, many years before he joined the Yardbirds, and obviously before Led Zeppelin. And he was in multiple record companies. One such story was Immediate Records, which I believe was created by Andrew Loog Oldham, who was the manager of the Stones for a while. And he was a session musician with them. And eventually at one point, he had invited Eric Clapton over to the house to jam. They had recorded a bunch of stuff. Immediate Records found out about it. And even though Page had just not really intended it to do anything, they wanted him to, we got to turn this into a record. Oh my God, Eric Clapton. Oh my God, he's a huge star. This was right around the time that Clapton was working. It was right after I think he did his work on the Blues Breakers album, the Beano album. So he was a very big name at the time. This was even pre-Cream. And so Page had been, he'd kind of been a working man's guitarist for many years before he got into, rock superstardom. So I think, trying to collate all of his session work, it's hard, but it's possible. And I think I want to try to do that. So those are a couple of the projects that I'm kind of working on right now. Hopefully, that will keep me, that's kind of the next month or two's worth of work. And yeah, I think I've seen that video of Jimmy as a teenager. I forget what kind of guitar he's playing. Probably the same Den Electro from his days in Led Zeppelin. But yeah, there's so many stories, but I try to think of the stories that not everybody's going to think of, if that makes sense. Like I'm hoping that nobody else thought, hey, I have to do a video about all the people who played on All Things Must Pass. They did videos on All Things Must Pass. They did videos on George. They did videos on the songs. They did videos on that. But did they do videos on all the players? So, well, it would be awesome if I included it in my video. And if you've noticed anything about my videos previously, I don't really have too much. Well, I don't have any music or video. There's a reason for that. As I've covered in other videos and also on countless comments, there are a lot of blocking mechanisms on YouTube that if I start doing that in very short order, I could be given a lot of copyright strikes. So how the copyright strike thing works is that, let's say I decide tomorrow, I'm going to start using music. Screw it. I'm done with this. I'm going to start using music. So I made 10 videos before they catch up to me. That could potentially happen where I make a bunch of videos. Maybe I only used 3 or 4 seconds of music. That's what it doesn't have to, it could be 1 second of music, right? Then suddenly a record company finds out that their song is being used on the video. Boom. I wake up, I get an email from YouTube. It says your video has been blocked on copyright reasons, right? So then I have a choice to either fight it or not fight it. Here's the thing though. If I fight it and win, I still have to give up all of my revenue to the record company because I'm using their music. I'm essentially borrowing it, right, to make my point of a few seconds in a video. So right now, but then the problem is they can also go to my old videos and they can find the other 9 that I did music on. Strike 1, strike 2, strike 3, you're out. The entire channel can be removed. All of your subscribers gone, all of your videos gone, everything lost. It's happened. It will continue to happen. And until YouTube comes up with some kind of way of allowing the creators to use a small portion of music without, without what's the word? Without me having to give up all of my revenue, that is basically the only thing that's making me money. And that's, that's my only choice. So I choose at this point to stay away from it. And that's kind of what I do. Topher Taylor. What's up, man? How's it going? Yeah. I mean, what else is new, man? So again, just stay away from it. And I feel like I can get my point across without the music right now. Because I don't really talk about it. I talk about the people. I talk about their stories. I talk about the players, their lives, what happened in their lives, things like that. And while it would be nice to make a point of, showing or listening to something that they're doing, it's just, I don't want to, A, I don't want to lose my channel, and B, I don't want to have to give up all of my revenue to a record company that already makes billions of dollars. And the revenue that we're talking about it's quarters and tenths of pennies to them, in a pool of billions of dollars that they are, and that the problem is that YouTube hasn't really looped them in. And that's, I feel like what they need to do. They need to loop them into the ad revenue before it even gets to us. And if that means we take a hit to some small extent, then so be it. We probably wouldn't even realize it, but they should just deal them in right to the ad revenue, and then kind of like a streaming service. And then that would be that. But the problem is not everybody does that or uses music. So they would feel like, well, why the hell are you, cutting into my YouTube revenue when I don't even have a music channel? So it's like, there's just no way to make everybody happy all the time. It's just not going to happen, No record labels are letting people use their music. None. At least none that I know of. I mean, maybe some of the really small, even defunct labels that don't really have lawyers that are watching videos all the time. But you have to basically roll the dice every time that you do that. You have to just figure out, like, are they somebody who is going to block my video or not? Am I going to get away with it if I put in 2 seconds, if I put in 3, if I take, even video? I mean, technically speaking, the photos I use can actually be claimed. I don't think because they're in the public domain, I find them all online. I don't think that it's ever going to become an issue. But yeah. Yes, I've heard about Les Harvey. That's another one. But yeah, I mean, like, there's tons of people. There was who died at, was it Steve? Who died at 26? There was another guy that died at 26. Then there was a guy that a friend of mine actually pointed out from a British band. Or was he, oh man, where's he from? Should have remembered. That worked. Richie Edwards. Right? Is that him? From the Manic Street Preachers. He disappeared at one point. Welsh musician. Part of the Welsh movement known as Cool Cymru. There's so many people. So many people. Oh my God. 3 a.m. Damn, man. Yeah. The UK says hello. Look, man, whenever I can, one of these days I'll have to do a live stream just for my fans overseas, because I do have a lot of them. I tend to have a lot of folks over in the UK and in Australia, which I don't think I can help you guys in Australia, because what is it? 12 hours difference? 11 hours? It's pretty much the other side of the world, right? Like, for the most part. Metal Blade record company. That's the Metal Blade was the one. Didn't they do Slayer for a while? Yeah, but I mean, who is that? Who are the artists that will allow that? And it's fine to use it as like backing music, but I'm not just going to do videos on that, you know. So it's just crazy. It really is. YouTube needs to figure it out. But as it is, I'm having the success that I'm having without using the music. So, you know, at this point, I'm just going to have to keep rolling along with what I'm doing, and that's going to be that. So yeah, I went into this live stream thinking that I was going to be doing battle all the time with all these people that have been coming into. Yeah, I remember Metal Blade from Hell Awaits and what's the first Slayer album? Oh, do not tell me. Show No Mercy. Yeah, so I am a Slayer fan. Yeah, but I've kind of fallen out of metal, and obviously if you look at my videos and a lot of my viewership and a lot of the people that I told you not to tell me, but I got it before you put it in there. What was I going to say? Most of my viewers, actually, I can probably pull this up. I don't know what demographic you guys are who are on right now, but I want to show you some of my analytics because it's kind of hilarious in some respects. So my audience right now, if you look at the age range, right, which is these over here, okay, so you got like 13 to 17, 0, and then 18 to 24, 4%, and then it goes up. And about 70% of my viewers are over the age of 55. And then I've got like 11% in the United Kingdom. I got some Canada, Australia, I got some Germany. Yeah, but what's weird is like for some reason, always the second country in revenue is Australia. So I wonder if that was if there's some kind of thing in Australia where you can generate more ad revenue there, because for some reason it's right behind the US, even though in the US I get like 60% of my viewers are from the US, but only like 12% of my viewers are in Australia. I wonder what that's going to be. But wow. Yeah, man, do what you got to do. Blacktooth Fox says he's just going to give his music freely online for free on CD, do a 2-record vinyl gatefold, which I'll charge an absolute fortune for. Heart attack last October. Yeah, man. And that's part of the reason why, believe it or not, I've also been touched with health problems over the years. I'm a cancer survivor myself. I had kidney cancer way back in 2014. I got my kidney removed. Luckily, it was caught very early. It was an incidental find. I was having gallbladder issues, and I basically got an ultrasound due to that, and they found it that way. And it was it was very small. And so got that done. And since then, everything's been good to go. But I have one kidney now, so I live with that. And it does give you perspective. Yeah, it does give you perspective because, some of the things that I've wanted to do, I've actually been on YouTube since 2011. You can actually go on and see some of my really early videos. And, I thought about it. And actually, the first video I ever made, I was already the guitar historian. I just didn't know how to market it. I didn't know how to package it. I didn't know how to make the channel what it was. But I did a video about Keith Richards and open G tuning. And I just talk about it, talk about the history of it, talk about how he uses it. And I went through this very long kind of winding road on YouTube where I was trying to do other things and find other ways to make money because I didn't know how to make money on YouTube or make the films that I wanted to make without using music. So once I unlocked that, I could go back to what I really loved, which was making documentaries about music. And so that's kind of where I've been since then. And it does put things in perspective. And there's a certain point in your life where you say, I really want to give this one more go, and I want to get this done. And so here I am. And, we're probably a few days away from reaching 25K on the subscriber count, which I look at as above all else the number one metric that I go by, because a video can get a lot of views, but if the video is not creating people to want to see your rest of your content and also see the new stuff that you're working on, then there's really no point in having a channel, because anybody can have a viral video. It's all about having the second viral video and a third and a 10th, So I feel like we're getting there, and I definitely want to thank all of my viewers out there and everybody who kind of comes onto these things religiously, like Topher. I think he's been on every live stream, even if it was only for a couple of minutes. He's checked into every single one of them, so I appreciate that. And I appreciate everybody who comments and everybody who does everything, and if you share and like my videos and share them on Facebook, or share them with your friends, or share them with your brothers, or whatever, that would be obviously the number one thing that would mean to me that you're enjoying the stuff and you want other people to see it. And that only makes me as excited to make those videos as it is for you to watch them. So definitely want to extend that courtesy to you guys. I really appreciate it. And you can't really understand how much. I'm not the type of person to get very blubbery at things like that, but it's definitely very appreciated. And some of you guys who are here, go and help me out on the George Harrison video, because I'm getting my ass kicked. You got to read some of these comments. Seriously, just go in and just look at some of the comments on this video. It's just some of these guys are hot. They are hot, hot, hot. So really upset about a lot of the things that, not giving Bobby Whitlock an hour-long video and saying Peter Frampton played on it and talking about Phil Collins. Somebody literally said, nobody thinks of Phil Collins as a real drummer. And I said, oh, what? I was literally reading it, and sometimes, I'm a South Philly guy. Okay. South Philly is known for, not really having a very good filter when it comes to stuff that comes out of our mouths. So sometimes that extends also to writing. Sometimes I'll write a text, or I'll write a return to the comment. And, it just kind of pops out of my head. And, when that person said Phil Collins, nobody considers Phil Collins a real drummer, I said, this could be the stupidest comment I've ever read, and that's saying something. And I just left it at that, because, come on, man. If you hadn't heard Phil Collins in Genesis, then I don't know what to do for you. I really don't. Yeah, man. Thank you for that. As far as the subscribers are concerned, this is what I tell people all the time. There are more people like you and like me and like all of us that are here right now than you would possibly imagine. Right? Like when I'm a geek and I say to myself, wow, I wonder, who played harmonica on that one song on that one album that didn't sell, and then I look into it and it unlocks an entire new rock and roll story for me. And I say to myself, who the hell's going to watch this? But then I'm shocked at how many people watch it, and I'm shocked at how many people are interested in it, right? The main thing about subscribers when it comes to YouTube is just producing your content as well as you can for a long period of time. I feel like 3 months, a lot of times I've seen a lot of channels come up, and then for 3 months they give it a really good go, and they're putting up a video once or twice a week, and they're trying to do their best, and then they just give up because it's not picking it up, and they're not getting anywhere, and they don't feel like they're accomplishing anything. And it takes a lot longer than that. So I'll tell you in a quick, because I'm trying to get off and go to bed. But Phil Collins is a very good producer. On the Harrison video, I really dug it. Thank you, sir. Phil, yeah, I'm sure he does. And yes, Phil Collins was a child actor. That was hilarious. He did a documentary once about A Hard Day's Night, and he was talking about how he was in it. He was like an extra in Hard Day's Night. But anyway, like I said, I was on YouTube for 10 years, but really it was in January of 2020 that I really started with this. So the first couple of videos, if you go back if you just scroll down in my videos, keep going. There's 2 videos that I made when I first got my Epiphone Les Paul. And I said to myself, like, I really want to get back into making guitar videos on YouTube. And the first one I did was about the Lucy Les Paul. So If Guitars Could Speak, that series was born before the Guitar Historian, right? I hadn't quite branded as that yet. And once I did that, and then it started to, I started to make videos. I had a few that did well. I had a few more that did well. It took for me to get so I'd already had about 2,000 subscribers from way back when I was doing the Rolling Stones videos. I'm talking 10 years ago, right? So I was hovering between like 1,800 and 1,900 subscribers. So I went from there to 10,000 subscribers, and it took over a year of constantly making videos. If Guitars Speak, Forgotten Fretmasters was really when it started taking off. So it took over a year for me to get to 10,000 subscribers. Then, however, it took less than 2 months to get from 10,000 to 20,000. So it's all a matter of luck. I wouldn't say luck, because you have to produce good content. So I'm not going to say it's all luck, but it's just being picked up by the algorithm at the right time, having a video that does kind of do well, and then just constantly trying to back that up with more content, realizing what it is your viewers want. So what I found on this channel is that my viewers seem to be very much into the people, right? Because a lot of times, a lot of guitar channels will talk about the music, and I'm not a great guitar player, so I can't sit there and go over all the lead licks and things like that were being played on the albums, but I can talk about the people behind it. And now, instead of focusing on the music, we're focusing on what makes this person tick. What were they going through in their life when they recorded this album? Where did this person come from? Who was that? Why, what band was he in before he was a rock superstar? Things of that nature. So, I think that for sure, I've kind of gotten to that point where I'm in a good place, but that's where you have to get to as a content creator. You have to constantly just be doing what you do. And I guarantee you, there are going to be other people out there that want to see it, that will enjoy it, that will enjoy you for who you are as a content creator. And you just got to keep going. It's going to take a long time. You might say 150 subs, that's nothing. It wasn't nothing for somebody at one point when somebody had 0 or had 2, and when you get to 1,000, 150 is going to seem like chump change. It's like all a matter of your current, mindset. But the main thing is it doesn't happen overnight, and it doesn't happen by not producing videos. You just have to keep on going, All right. One last look at the chat and then I'm off. Collins is a titan of contemporary music, frankly. Think his simple pop tunes just overshadow his all-around capability. Phil Collins knows how to write a goddamn good song, and he's got the greatest hits album to back it up. he also has the musicianship to back it up. And as a producer, he produced two of Eric Clapton's best albums, I believe. I think he produced Behind the Sun, and he produced Journeyman. He produced what else? He's a ton. Okay, he's done a lot of stuff. I would put him up in the echelon as a producer, almost up to where like Jeff Lynne is. I think he's that good. But yeah, I think, there's hate for people. Like there's hate for Peter Frampton on this. Why? Like I said about Kiss, like it's not for me, but I don't like hate them. I give them their props for being a big band and, selling a ton of records and all that stuff. But I just, I just think it's not going to be for everybody. But I guarantee you, if you want to get into this business, it's just a matter of like doing it and constantly, working at it, getting better as a filmmaker. And that's what I do call it. Yeah, Bob Rock, Mutt Lange. He's also another one of my favorites. Def Leppard and AC/DC. Great producer right there. Really knows how to do it. But anyway, I can go on and on for night. I got to go to bed. I've had a couple of rough days. I am off the next 2 days, so I will be producing something. I'm not sure exactly which video I'm going to produce first. Probably my next FF series, but just stay tuned. Hopefully by the weekend, we're going to have another vid out. And and I will be putting out just real quick, a very quick couple-minute video about that Phil Collins. There's a Phil Collins little gem that I actually cut out of the All Things Must Pass video. It's about a joke, a prank, basically, that George Harrison pulled on Phil Collins. So it's really a funny story. Stay tuned for that. I'm going to turn that into a little kind of addendum video. And we'll see you soon. So hopefully I will be back next week. I'm thinking I'm going to stream on Thursday because I'm actually working early every day for 6 days in a row. And then I work Friday night. So usually I can stream the night before I work late because I don't have to work early the next day. So that's my plan. So if anybody wants to pop back on next Thursday, I will look forward to seeing you. And like I said, if anybody wants to go and help me out over on the George Harrison video on the comments, do so. All right, man. See you later. And that's it. See you next time.